initiate here. So today I just wanted to talk about something that has been on my mind lately, and is the topic of the big four brands or in the snowmobiling industry. So you've got Polaris, you've got Yamaha, you got Arctic Cat, and you got Skidoo. Now, all four of these brands bring different things to the table, and you as a consumer and as a buyer, you owe it to yourself to look at all four brands before you make a purchase. In this day and age, brand loyalty is a big part of purchases. It's one of the things that, working at a motorcycle dealership as a salesman, I see on a regular basis of people who are very brand loyal, and I think they limit themselves to the machine they buy based on their brand loyalty. And in a lot of ways, not all manufacturers offer, let's say, talk about Arctic Cat, for example. They offer a very competitive four-stroke now, because they are competing and they are dealing directly with Yamaha. So currently, Arctic Cat and Yamaha have a deal, I'm sure most of you know this, where Arctic Cat is supplying the chassis and Yamaha is supplying their four-stroke motors. Arctic Cat has transferred all of their four-strokes, with the exception of the Suzuki 1100, to using Yamaha four-strokes. So if you buy an Arctic Cat ZR 7000, you are effectively buying a Yamaha motor. Now you see a lot of brand loyal guys who are thinking four-stroke market, who will not buy an Arctic Cat ZR 7000 because it has a Yamaha motor in it, and to them that means they're not buying an Arctic Cat. Now, the Arctic Cat ZR 7000, in my opinion, currently, is probably the best four-stroke sled on the market for a couple of reasons. First reason is price point. You can get a ZR 7000 right now for right around $9,500, brand new, at least at the dealerships where I am. Now, what you get with that is a 135 horsepower four-stroke, three-cylinder, that has all the reliability in the world because it's the same four-stroke Genesis four-stroke that Yamaha has been making since 2003 or 2004. A very competent chassis and an excellent shock bed. Regardless of which one you get, you're either going to get a low resonance pocket rebound and compression shock, or you're going to find a two-best plate instead of a three-way adjustable flicker for $9,500. Now that is competitive in the 600cc two-stroke class, beyond all expectations of what anybody is wanting to see out of a 1000cc four-stroke. It used to be they were heavy, they were cumbersome, the suspensions weren't any good, but now they are exceedingly good. So, the point being, don't be brand loyal. That is the number one mistake buyers make in the market. The second mistake people make in the current market is buying a first-year sled and expecting it not to have issues, and then bashing that brand. For example, the new Skidoo 850 that just came out, first-year sled. They're having some issues. They're having some issues with clutch and braking, and what a lot of guys are worried about is that primary clutch gets really hot on those sleds. That heat's got to go somewhere. That heat's going to go right down the crank and get to those crank bearings and potentially wear out your crank bearings a lot sooner than it should. They're also having a lot of issues with the clips that hold the plastics on and those breaking. That's just one example of some of the new issues that a new sled is going to have. It harkens all the way back to, or recent times, the Polaris Fusion 900. When that came out, that sled was a flop, and a lot of people really didn't like it because of that. That 900cc motor was a strong motor, but it had a ton of issues, so much so that Polaris in the coming years actually changed the plastics and renamed it to the IQ. If you buy a Fusion, you're buying an IQ. Which leads me to the next best deal on the used sled market right now. If you're looking at used sleds, a Fusion 600 IQ. I can't think of a better sled that you can buy. You get a 600cc motor that puts out about 120 horsepower, maybe a little bit more. You get, it says Liberty 600, so they're bulletproof motors. Bulletproof motors. They've got a ton of power, just as much. They actually won the shootouts back in the day in the 600cc class. You get a really competent Ride FX shock package in the front, with a Fox position sensitive shock in the rear, and a Ride FX in the front of the rear skid. In an IQ chassis, with an adjustable handlebar setup. And you can pick these sleds up right now for under $2,500 with less than 3,000 miles on them. If you're looking for a used sled, that's the one to buy in my opinion. Now, if you move on to back to my original point, which is not being brand loyal, all the sled manufacturers right now offer different things for different money. Currently right now, Yamaha's got some smoking deals out on their Vipers, which is essentially the same sled as the ZR7000. You can get Vipers right now for $9,900 brand new. So if you're looking 4-stroke, Yamaha Viper, Arctic Cat ZR7000. Those are the two best 4-strokes right now. I don't care what you say. The Skidoo 1200 4Tech is a good motor, but it's not as powerful or as snappy as the ZR7000 motor. It's more of a kind of a lazy man's motor. It's not meant for performance. It's meant for gas mileage and long-term reliability. But the 4-stroke in the Yamaha and the Cat has just as much reliability. So open your horizons, expand your mind, go to a brand that maybe you wouldn't always look at, and you'll probably find that you're going to get a really good deal on a sled that's going to fit what you want. Like if I was gonna, like I'm a Polaris guy through and through, and the more you watch my videos, the more you'll see that. I like Polarises, I've always liked them, I've always had them, but I've owned every other sled as well, but I like Polarises as a whole. However, when I buy a new sled, which will probably be next winter or the winter after that, I'm probably not going to be looking at Polarises. And the reason why is because Polaris right now doesn't offer much in the way of a mid-track length, so you're talking 129 to 137 track length, that is going to be decent off-trail, but really good on-trail. The reason why is the Rush chassis is a very compliant chassis and a very good chassis, but the problem with it is you've got that big suspension, the external rear shock. That makes it very hard to work on, and it gives you, in the deep stuff, you don't get as much of a side hill or boondock ability because that rear skid, the way it acts, it's not good in deep snow or any kind of off-trail riding. So Polaris offers their switchback model, but it still has the rear shock. Now, if you go up to the next one, which would be the Assault has a 144-inch track, which in my mind is a little bit too long for a traditional true trail sled. So I'm probably not going to be looking at Polaris. Where am I going to be looking? I'm not sure yet. I won't be looking at Skidoo because I don't personally like Skidoo. I don't like the way they look. That's my biggest thing. That's why I wouldn't buy a Skidoo, because I do not like the way they look. I cannot get over it. To me, they look like a grasshopper, and I don't like the look of them. The newer ones have kind of an odd, the new Rev chassis, to me, a lot of guys like it, but I just don't personally like it. I don't really like the ergonomics of the Skidoos either. It feels more like you're sitting on a crotch rocket than on a snowmobile, which to a lot of guys is great, but to me, not my favorite. I'm probably going to be looking at an Arctic Cat or a Yamaha. Now, if I boil that down, the Arctic Cats, the reason why I like them, and again, Skidoo's out of the table right now for me because I don't like the way they look. If you look at the Arctic Cats, they are sharp-looking sleds in my mind, but they also offer a 129 and a 137-inch skid with an 1.25 inch lug on either one, which is a perfect trail sled. The 129 probably is a little better, in my opinion, than the 137 is for true trail riding. But so that's where I'm going to be looking. And when I'm looking there, then you got the argument of 2-stroke versus 4-stroke. Well, on the one hand, the 2-stroke is a very, obviously you got that snap, but the 2-stroke reliability, and I'm going to be looking at 800cc class sled, the 2-stroke reliability is not up to par in the 800cc class. Since like the mid-2000s, the 800cc 2-strokes have been plagued with issues after issues after issues. Whether you're looking at a Cat, whether you're looking at a Skidoo or a Polaris, they all had problems, especially with ring failure. And the reason why, it's a very interesting concept. The reason why, in my mind, you see a lot of 800cc sleds that are not that reliable, or most of them aren't that reliable, at least not after a couple thousand miles, is because think about how much power they're putting out. You're getting 160 horse out of a essentially 0.8 liter motor. So you figure your average car today, like economy car or just your normal car, out of a 2.5 liter or 2.2 liter motor, naturally aspirated, making about 160 horse out of 2.2 liters. So you've got 3 times the engine size, putting out the same power in a 4-stroke form. So you take that same horsepower and you take it and you suck it out of a 0.8 liter motor. You're asking for failure, because the 800cc sleds now are putting out so much power that those sleds are just on the ragged edge of running at all times. They're ready to blow right from the factory. So that's when it brings me to the 4-stroke class. Now, as I said before, you have the ZR7000 and the Yamaha Viper that I would be choosing from. I love the Viper, I love the looks of it, I love the ZR7000, I love the looks of it. But for what you pay for one of those, you're getting 600cc performance. Depending on rebates, you actually pay a little bit less than you would for a 600, but it's still only 600cc performance. So if you want a 4-stroke and you want 800cc performance, where do you go? Well, in previous years, you had the Z1 Turbo or the XF1100 Turbo, which both were very good sleds. You're about 180 horse. The problem with those, though, is that they didn't really offer a lot more performance than an 800 because they were very heavy sleds. Now, they were also plagued with a lot of clutch overheating issues and just general heat issues because of the way the plastics were made. They corrected that in 2015 or 16, but they still have that moniker, that issue that they have. Which brings us to a first-year sled, and that is the Yamaha Sidewinder. And right now, or the Arctic Cat ZR9000, but the ZR9000 is actually more money because Yamaha has more rebates. So I'm probably going to be looking at a Sidewinder. Sidewinder puts out 211 horsepower. Dyno, 211 horsepower from the factory. We have them on our showroom floor right now for $12,700 for a 4-stroke Pro Cross chassis, Yamaha motor. It's a 3-cylinder motor. That's the sled to buy. So at the end of this video, as a general conclusion, what I'm trying to put out here is be open to every brand.